Happy Friday, everybody. And I'm starting just a little bit later, but I am here only for a short time. And it's to really zero in on a message that I want to convey regarding the absolutely horrible. Hey, Barry, how are you? Thumbs up, please. Thank you. And if you tweet this out, hashtag NFL Barry, much appreciated. I don't have my laptop in front of me to respond or tweet things out. I could do it right here, but I prefer not to. This is going to be a focused live stream, and a short one at that. Hey, how you doing, Raider Flea? How are you? And thank you, everybody, for attending. I have something I want to share with you, and it has to do with my extreme disappointment over, hey, ML, how are you? And it has to do with my, how's everybody? Got ML, Karen, how are you? And I'm glad to see everybody here. That's fantastic. Wow, popping up here. So what I'll do is, it looks like you're all coming in. Thank you, Barry. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Oh, and if you could do one more under Raiders, that'll be for hashtag Raiders. That'll be fantastic. And so let's see here. I have no idea what that reads, but moderators, I'm going to give you free reign to block anything that you think is weird, like, for example, that last message that just popped up. So there you go. But anyway, or flag it, so because I don't have time today to deal with that, and I'm not going to. So there you go. So again, moderators, you may fire at will. And thank you. Thank you very much, ML. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Okay. I was deeply disappointed at what I saw yesterday and what I've seen thus far in this effort in Las Vegas. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If we in Oakland are going to lose to Las Vegas, at least let it be done right. This is not at all done right. And the NFL should really be ashamed that the shield is attached to what has transpired. Now, let me explain how this should work and work backward, okay? And that is this way. Normally, a person like an assistant city manager or associate city manager or city administrator like Claudia Capio, for example, or a focused point person that has experience in government and negotiations and preferably urban planning and urban development, sits in the role that applied analytics Jeremy Arguello is in right now. I'm not criticizing him specifically at all, because he found himself in one of those either enviable, if you're with me, or unenviable, if you're someone else's positions, where he was quite literally the only person standing that was capable of doing the job that normally a city manager does. And so that's not really his fault. It's an opportunity for his company. But look, Jeremy Arguello's company is an economic analysis company. What they're doing now is great for their future, but it's not. But for all practical purposes, it's not something that they've done before. And what I mean by that what they're doing is in terms of assembling and producing the paperwork necessary and getting them to the right parties and making sure that paperwork is properly written. I'm not saying they haven't done any of this, or working on messaging, making sure that they're working with the right government authorities and agencies. All of that is being essentially left to them, working with Steve Hill. Steve Hill is the Nevada Economic Development chairperson and director, rather, and working with the seasoned Guy Hobbs, who is a top flight public investment banking consultant at Hobbs Obson, and working with the NFL in the face of its head NFL properties, Eric Grubman and others. So there's not But what you have is a hodgepodge of people, for the most part, not experienced at this at all, not even experienced at working with governments in the way that Arguello and his staff is being asked to work with them. And they are doing yeoman work. They're doing an outstanding job considering where they're placed. It's not their fault. They didn't come in and say, look, this is our position. We're going to carve it out. If you don't let us do it, then these bad things are going to happen. Not at all, okay? That's not the situation. But the fault really lay with the Raiders and the NFL for allowing this to occur. And the NFL has to have internal standards for how stadiums are to be negotiated, financed, and built. Now, I know the league would take a pause and reaction to what I'm saying, but my question to the league is this: is there anywhere that you have a document that says, when we work with a city, here are what we expect to see in terms of persons in charge of one step of the operation or another? And if that's not in place, it should be, for the comfort of the owners, for the protection of the owners, so that they know if they're going in a situation and it's not quite according to plan, they can adjust. Again, having said all that, Applied Economics, or Analytics, is doing a fantastic job. But where's that war room? Where's that giant sheet, not just of documents and due dates, but who has to be contacted and everything else? My impression is that a lot of this is done as a reaction to the fact that Sheldon Adelson is not involved, and so what you don't have are the seasoned developers within Las Vegas Sands. You don't have the seasoned developers that were in Majestic, which was asked to take a walk by Las Vegas Sands last September 13th. None of that is there, okay? So what you are left with is different people responsible for different areas. It's almost compartmentalized. Like, for example, take this whole flyer issue. If a normal equal employment opportunity division were involved in writing herd over signing up people to make absolutely certain they know about where to be with respect to applying for possible positions and possible work with the stadium, and they would know that there were no jobs being offered right now, that EEO officer would ride her over that and make sure that the right message got out. But because there's no government EEO office involved, because there's no professional involved, okay, and because that is not in place, and I agree with you, Raiders, I absolutely agree with you there. And what's not in place is a way of controlling the expectations of people, of the public. You don't have that. And there's none of that at any step of the way. Let me give you yet another example. And Dorian says it's a shame how much of a mess this is, and you're absolutely right. Let me give you another example. Let's take UNLV and the Raiders and that negotiation right there, okay? The chairman of the Las Vegas Stadium Authority, Stephen Hill, yesterday said that he's not going to comment on negotiations with UNLV and the Raiders. But then get this, about, I believe, 3 months ago, toward the onset of the meetings of the Las Vegas Stadium Authority, Mr. Hill said that it was important to make sure that they were on track in terms of the completion of all these agreements. What is it that UNLV and the Raiders are meeting about but the joint use agreement, right? So instead of cracking the whip and saying, okay, we've got to get this done, we can't have these leaks, Hill does this. He passes, he says, that's UNLV's thing. That's fascinating, and it's something for everybody, Raider fans, regardless of where you sit on this, to heed, because I have said before that UNLV is in the driver's seat and they could choose to stall this out for whatever reason, and threaten the Raiders' ability to really get this stadium done. Now, is that a good thing for people in Oakland? Sure. But it's also why we need a plan, and we should act like the Raiders are going to stay in Oakland and basically forget that the NFL voted 31-1 to allow the Raiders to plan a Las Vegas trip. We should plan our own large-scale event center. We need to have an edifice to continue hosting the kind of events we do, and also the giant esports events that are already upon us and growing in number. We have to plan. We can't just say, oh, that's it, I give up, and, I don't want to deal with the Raiders anymore. That doesn't really pay anyone's bills. This is about infrastructure planning and about getting it right. And I apologize for not having my laptop so I can see your reactions, but I'll respond to them as they come up here. Or if, like, you want to invest in Zinni62, that blue line that says you paid something will blast your message right out in my face, and I cannot ignore it. It'll be stuck right here on my screen, okay, right there. But I want to get this out because it is really painful to watch this process unfold. It hurts. As one whose background is in absolutely just plain hurts to watch this unfold as it has. And I have to say something about the way that it's done. Now, I am not out there saying, what I'm out there basically saying is this: Oakland needs to get ready to catch this thing. And it needs to not give up the ship with respect to economic development the way that it has. I can't say enough about how horrible the Oakland economic development system has been allowed to become over the past, 10 years, okay? Well, beyond that, before redevelopment, then redevelopment was ended in 2012 because of the actions of California Governor Jerry Brown, but now it's back in a different way with two pieces of legislation that were signed into law in 2014 and 2015. And you ask if Vegas is going to happen or not. I'm telling you the problems, okay? So you're going to have to just simply cool your jets and watch and stop with the, the ones and the zeros, like is this going to happen or not. I'm telling you problems right now. And the other thing I ask as viewers is this: be intelligent, all right? If it strains you to not be intelligent and just say, I just want to answer, you've come to the wrong place. I am going to make you think whether you want to or not because you're smart enough to do so. Zinsters on my channel understand exactly what I'm talking about. I have no patience for that. Back to the point. I'm sorry, I just don't. Because people are smart. And what's happened in this society is that we've allowed this bombarding of a lot of information at once and technology to basically dumb us down and not use our brain. I am railing against that. Everybody is much smarter than they're given credit for. You can absorb this stuff. So no, you're not going to get that binary thing from me. I'm going to make you pay attention to this process. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, and this is a momentary aside from the point that I was making, that people look to reporters to tell them what's happening, but no one's critiquing. I'm going to critique it because I have the experience to do so. All right? Now, getting back to my main point, the essential problem here is that now Stephen Hill, as chairman, is almost loosening the reins. It's like, look, I don't want to get involved with UNLV and the Raiders. That's their thing. Oh, interesting. And then they've got a private organization with a great presenter in their community benefits liaison who spoke yesterday, but representing the contractor that is supposed to be responsible for minority hiring, women and minorities, right? Well, I'm sorry. Without government oversight, you've got the fox guarding the henhouse. That's exactly what the situation is. And yet you've got what some have said to be almost 1,000 people, African American, coming down looking for jobs, and they didn't get them. Again, the simple fact that that happened, all right? And the simple fact that that happened, and yes, we stand with Oakland. Make sure you get there. We stand with Oakland. But the simple fact that that happened means that there is no, and I mean no one to control the message. And the way you control the message, not to say the newspapers don't print this or print that. No, you control the message by making sure that all impacted communities know up front what the jobs timeline is. In other words, hey, look, we don't have jobs for you right now. We're going to have them here. And the state of Nevada should have an EEO officer that does that. The Clark County should have one. Las Vegas should have one as well. If they do, then the question is, why aren't they active and involved in this process? This would never happen in Oakland. All the stuff that the Raiders are going through right now would never happen in Oakland, and fans should ask the Raiders. I don't care where you're located. I don't care if you're located in Cucamonga. You need to ask this question. Why is it that the Raiders are putting Raider Nation through this and all these unnecessary steps when in Oakland they wouldn't have to go through them? And that gets back to what I was talking about with respect to the National Football League and not having this government template of expectations so that it's risk management. All right? It says, here is how we expect to work with government entities and what we expect to get from government and developers. And here's what to do if we don't get that. Maybe we just don't do the project at all. Right? Just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should do a thing. Remember that? Remember that. Just because you can do a thing does not mean you should do a thing. Okay? I want to leave everybody with that because it is completely and absolutely distressing to see this transpire. Now, I will be back, not tonight, but we'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to do another live stream on this, but I'll have my laptop and I'll be able to, we'll have an exchange, okay? Because we really didn't have one last night. Last night was more the show for Russell and for We Stand with Oakland, and for anybody that wants to get involved with We Stand with Oakland, which I highly recommend you do. And so I think is Raider Flea says pretty much like a time bomb that's going to blow up in somebody's face. Yeah, I think Raider Flea, that's a great observation. It is very much a ticking time bomb, but that's the whole point. With Stephen Hill saying, hey, look, you know, ULV has its thing with the Raiders, its negotiations, and I'm not going to get involved in it. I'm not going to crack the whip. And then him just basically playing hands off. And then with Bill Hornbuckle, the great president of MGM, saying twice regarding the whole issue of minority hiring and women in own businesses, I've been through this before. That tells me two things. First of all, that he is displeased with the process. Second, that no one has consulted him and said, hey, Mr. Hornbuckle, how should we be doing this? And that falls on Stephen Hill and Mr. Aguillo and the Raiders and Mark Bedane and even County Commissioner Steve Sisolak, the chairperson, who's ostensibly running for governor. He's got to really be careful, does Commissioner Sisolak, that this doesn't come off in his face in the wrong way, okay? Because he's a good man, he's a good Democrat trying to produce jobs for his constituents, and I think that he's got the right idea there. But this is becoming that wrong thing to hitch your wagon to the way it's going. He's got to be careful. Steve's a great man, a good guy from what I've experienced, and I wish him well, and that includes the entire board of Clark County, the Clark County Board of Commissioners in Nevada. So I just want to make that clear. All right, folks, it's I said that this is going to be a short live stream. It's a short live stream. Barry Lee, God bless you. All you investors, ML Scott, Barry Lee, everyone who've been involved and sticking with me and chime in, Money Lynch, and everyone else, thank you. God bless you. Karen, hey, why don't you join the investors? Contribute. Just go to Zinni62.com, click on Invest in Zinni62 Media, and you'll join a whole wide world of great people that's growing. We're up to almost 20 investors now, and I've got more planned. So again, stay tuned, and thank you all very much, and have a great Friday, okay? But I had to get that out of the way. And I will get your comments tomorrow. See you Saturday. Okay, see you all later. Thank you.